Hello everyone. In this video I quickly want to go over the Rust example of the Skylords PvP bot programming API and how you can use the example and start from that to program your own bot in the Rust programming language. What you need to do for that is firstly I would highly recommend checking out this forum post about the phase 1 of the contest. Phase 2 will also come soon, but for now go to this page, and then here you will find first of all a link to a questionnaire which you can still fill out, and also a link to the event Discord, which I highly recommend joining, because there you find all of the instructions how to run the bot, all of the resources you need, and they will also get help if you find any trouble in terms of running your bot or programming it. Okay, with that out of the way, what do you need to run the Rust example bot? First of all, you need to install the Rust programming language, of course. So the easiest way to go that is to go Rust up to the website rustup.rs, as you can see up here, and then just follow the instructions you see here to install the programming language. And I would highly recommend also installing not only the stable toolchain, but also the nightly toolchain. But during the installing process, you will see, or you will get asked what toolchain you want to install, and the nightly toolchain will be required for some of the features of the bot. Okay, once you have the programming language installed, you go to this website, gitlab.com/skylordsreborn/skylordsreborn bot API Rust. I will put all of the links in the description as well. And from here you can download the example implementation of the bot API. And in order to download this, if you know how to use Git, then just go here and clone this repository. If you do not know how to use Git, don't worry, you can also just go down here to download source code and then click on zip, and then you will get all of the source code as a zip file and you can work with that. Okay, once you have that installed, I would also highly recommend getting an IDE, which makes the programming much easier because you get syntax highlighting and errors get shown in line and stuff like that. And there are two big IDEs for Rust, one of which is called Rust Rover, which is done by the JetBrains company, but it's still in the preview mode. And I'm not sure if it's free or if you have to like pay something for it. And the alternative would be to get VS Codium, which is a fork of VS Code without the Microsoft telemetry, which you can also just install from their website. And I will put both links into the video description. And for this tutorial, I will be using VS Codium because it's a free version. And first of all, some tips for configuring the IDE. I would recommend you go to the extension page here on the left, and then you want to install some extensions to work with Rust, one of which is called Rust Analyzer, which I've already installed. Here you can see that, Rust Analyzer. Next, I would also recommend getting this Better Toml extension, which makes reading the Rust configuration files much easier. The crates extension can also help if you want to use some external dependencies. And finally, code LLDB if you want to use a debugger. I would recommend installing this plugin as well, but if you don't know what a debugger is or don't like using them, then don't worry about that. All of the other plugins I have installed are for other programming languages, which you don't really need if you are just working with Rust. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, how do you, first of all, how do you actually start the bot? So what you can do is just go open a terminal and go into this directory Skylords Reborn API Rust /example, which is this directory here, and in there you will find the implementations of the example bots. Currently there are 3 example bots implemented. The first one is just called example, which only spams master archers, which we will take a closer look at. And the other ones are called try everything, which is a bot which just spams every comment available to see if they all work. And commentator bot, which gives a lot of commentary about what is happening, and it doesn't really play, it just spams the chat with what's going on in the game right now. So how do you run this code? As I said, you go into the example directory, And there you type, you use cargo, which is Rust's built-in package manager, and you type cargo space run. If you want to use optimizations as well, so the bot will run a bit faster, you do -r, which stands for release, and then you just press enter, and then the code will compile. I've already run it before, so the compilation will be rather quickly. If it's your first time doing this, then it might take a bit longer because it's also compiling all of the dependencies. But then you see, okay, the server is running and it gives you the address where it's running at. It's 127.0.0.1 colon and then 7273. And this address and especially the port in the back, we need to remember now because we have to add it to one of our config files. And you will find this config file in your documents folder, and then you go to Battleforge, and then you have this file config_debug.json, and you open it with any text editor you like. And if this field is not yet there, you can add this AI field to this config file. I would recommend just adding it at the very top so you always know where it is. And if you don't know the exact syntax here, you also find that in the instructions that are listed on the Discord server. And here you add under URLs the URL which your program just told you that it's running on. So in our case, it's 127.0.0.1 colon 7273, which I've already added here. Then you save that file and you close it. And then also check out the instructions page because there is first of all, here under proxy versions, you need to download this custom proxy and add it to your game files, and then use this command to start Battleforge. And I've already done that. And then you will be in-game, and you will also have the possibility to actually load bots into your game. And I will be testing the bot on the Alien map. I use Alien Spectator. Just go to any position, and then you can use the chat command /AI. Then this colon is important, space. Then you can just start with list. And now, if you've configured everything correctly, it should say possible AI, Rust example bot, and then in parentheses tutorial, which is the deck it will be using. And to play against your bot, you need to add it to this list here. You can do that by typing /AI colon space add, and then the name of the AI, which is Rust example AI, Rust example AI, then the name of the deck which it should use, which is tutorial, and then lastly the slot you want to add it to, which is in our case slot number 4, so we can play against it. And here we go. There is one example bot. And as you can see, it uses just the tutorial deck, and then we can just press ready and launch game. And now we can play against the bot, and I will quickly demonstrate you what this bot actually does. Because all it does is it spams master archers whenever it has 50 power, so it can actually spawn one. And then it just sends all of the master archers it has to attack your main orb. And it doesn't actually fight yet, it just starts at its own orb and focuses your orb no matter what you do. So it's not really a clever bot yet, but it works. Okay. And after you're done with your match, just leave your group. So you're no longer in a group with the example bot, because otherwise it might cause some troubles when you want to add another bot. Okay, now to take a look at the source code, how this bot actually works under the hood. So if you take a look at the structure of the code you just downloaded, you will find several directories. One of which is called example, which is the one we will be taking a look at. API derived, you don't really have to care about that because this is just used to generate bindings for like the other language like C++, C#, Python, and so on. And there's also this directory called API, where you will find more info about what's available in the API, but we will take a look at that in a moment. So first of all, where your you can basically start reading the code is in this directory example slash source slash example dot, sorry, not example.rs, but main.rs. And here you have the main function, and basically all it does is, depending on which command line arguments you give, if you don't give any, it runs the example bot. And if you do give some, then it will run the try everything bot or commentator bot. And as you can see, it goes to this warp wrapper run function, and the warp wrapper is actually in the API source directory. And what this is, it's basically an implementation of a HTTP server, because how these bots work internally is that you have an HTTP server running on your local computer, which we started via this command line earlier. And then every tick, the game sends a request to the HTTP server, basically asking it, hey, this is how the game looks currently. What do you want to do in the next tick? Which units do you want to spawn? Where do you want to attack? And so on. And the implementation of this HTTP server is all written in this warp-wrapper.rs file. You can just use this default implementation. There is nothing specific to the bot in it. It's just an HTTP server. But if you want to write your own implementation, you can also do that. But this is a bit more advanced, so I would recommend just sticking to the basics unless you really need to change something with that. Then the next thing is if you go to example.rs, or here in example source, example.rs, this is where actually your bot is implemented. So how do you actually implement your bot? You start by declaring a structure and call it whatever you want to call it. Here it's called my example bot, but you can use whatever name you want. And it has to have the following fields. It has to have the field my ID, which is an option of the entity ID type. My team is a U8. The opponents is a vector of entity ID. My start is a position 2D, and the deck is just a static reference or a static lifetime reference to the deck type. And all of these types are declared in the API, which I will show you later. And for this structure to actually work in game, you have to implement the bot impl trait, which is a trait also defined somewhere up here in the API. And basically what this trait does is it grants you a few functions which your bot needs to implement for it to work. The first one is the most simple one. It's the function called name, which takes no arguments and returns a static lifetime string slice. And here we just hard-coded it to be Rust example AI. And this was also the name which we saw in game here. If we did /AI list, then here, Rust example AI, this is the string you will actually see in game. So feel free to choose any creative name you want for this. Then the next functions are, the first one is dex format, which basically just asks the bot, hey, for the map we are currently on, in our example it was the Alien Spectator map, which decks can you play on that map? And then it just, what this example bot does is just matches the map, which is given as an argument, and then sees, okay, if it's Largest Spectator or Alien Spectator, we can play with Tutorial deck. If it's Ermia Spectator or Fire Spectator, we can play either with this Tainted Flora deck or Tutorial deck, which are both hard-coded down here. So the Tutorial deck is just a list of basically of this card template type, which is also defined in the API. And the same for the Tainted Flora deck, which is one of the free PvP decks, which we just implemented into this code. Okay, and so if you were to play on Ermia Spectator or Fire Spectator, the bot could also use Tainted Flora instead of the Tutorial deck. Okay, the next function you have to have is the prepare for battle function, which takes a map info and a deck and returns basically the bot type, so the my example bot. And this was basically what was happening under the hood when we did /AI add, because we presented it with a map info from the map we had opened, so Alien Spectator, and we also said we want to play against the Tutorial deck. So what it does is you can basically do any preparations you need to do before the fight in this function, but basically it just returned an example bot instance with everything as defaults except for the deck, which is taken from the argument. Okay. And then you have this match start function, which is called once before the game starts. And here you can do several things which you need to prepare before you can actually start the game. For example, this bot, if you see, it loops over all the players, and then in my team it stores all of the entities of your own team, and in the bot state opponents it stores all of the player entities of your opponent's team, and so on. So during the game you can have easier access to what your own and your opponent's team are. Or you can also do things like here it loops over all of the power slots and token slots in the game, and it finds the ones which belong to the opponent. So if you can see here, token slot, and if the entity ID is not the same as my ID, oh no, but yeah, you can see, for example, you could already loop over all of the slots and see put the enemy slots in some kind of target list which you want to destroy later in the game, or the same for the monuments and so on. And then lastly, you have this tick function, which is basically the heart of your bot, because this is called once every tick, and it takes a mutable reference to self and the current game state, and returns a vector of commands which should be given in that exact tick. And this on tick function here is put outside of the import block. And what this does is it starts by saving some of the fields of this bot state, like of this game state, like the current tick and all of the entities available. And then it starts by creating an empty vector called my army and a not yet initialized target. And also it says my power is equal to 0, and then you can see some basic work of how the API works. For example, you loop over all the players in the current game state, and you see if the player ID is the same as your own ID, then you will take the power of that player and place it into your own power, and then you know how much power you have and can calculate if, for example, if you can spawn another master archer, or if you cannot spawn a master archer in that during that tick. And then you can also loop over all the squads in the game by looping over entities.squads.iter, which creates an iterator. And then you can see if the ID of this entity is the same as your own ID, then you will push it to the my army vector. And then after this has looped over all the entities and it has collected all of the ones which are yours, then you know, okay, this are all of the units which I can use in the text. And then here it loops over all token slots in the game, and then it also sees, okay, if the owning player ID of this token slot is the same as the enemy player, then it will be set as the target, and if there's none, then it will still be none, and afterwards it will, if there is a target, then it will be set to some entity.id. Okay, then here this info just does some printing on the onto the command line, as you can see happened down here. Alright, and then what it does is it matches the length of the own army and the targets to see, okay, if we have an army and there is a target, we do an attack. If not, we basically can't do it. So the first case is, okay, we do not have an army, so we have to spawn some units. And the spawn unit function is down here. We'll take a look at that later. Then if there is no target, then yeah, basically all of the orbs of the opponent are destroyed, so we'll win soon, so it doesn't do anything. And if there is actually a target entity, then if this target is not none, then it will actually do an attack command, and it will use the group attack. Use the army, which we've created up here, as the squads, and the target will be set as the basically the unwrapped version of this target variable. And then lastly, we will also do another spawn unit if it is possible, and also do an attack. And then afterwards we will just do another match over the spawn and attack, and if there is none, then the bot won't do anything. If there's like a spawn command, then it will just spawn. If there is only an attack command, it will only do an attack. And if we do have a spawn command and an attack command, it will create a vector which contains both spawn and attack, and both will be done during the next tick. So it will spawn a Master Archer and attack the orb. Okay, and in the spawn unit function, you can basically see, okay, it first of all checks if the current deck is the tutorial deck. And if that's the case, and the current power of the player is bigger than or equal to 50, then what it will do is it will use this produce squad command. Card position is the position of the unit in the deck. And if you go to the deck down here, you see the 0th position is Master Archers. So it will spawn Master Archers, and where does it spawn it? It says bot state.myStart, which has previously been initialized to your starting orb, so it will always spawn Master Archers at their own starting orb. And you can also see there's also an implementation. If the deck used is Tainted Flora, then it will instead use the card position 2 of the Tainted Flora deck, which are Windweavers. Right, so this is basically how the bot works. And if you want to know everything the bot can possibly do, you have to go to this API directory here. So it's not in the example directory anymore, but under API, source, and then lib.rs. And this is a quite large file with over 1,000 lines of code. And here you can find a lot of useful info. For example, you can find an enumeration for upgrades to calculate or to what do you call it, to convert between a upgrade 0 card and an upgrade 1, 2, or 3 card. And if you go down here, you can see all of the possible ability lines in the game. You can see, what else have we here? Right, aspects and ability effects and everything else you need. For example, if you want to know what commands are available, just go to this public enum command in line 837, and you can see there is the build house command, which will spawn a building, cast spell god, which is basically just a spell cast like an eruption or a surge of light. Cast spell god multi is something with multiple targets like another warp, produce squad, and so on. And these are all the possible actions you can do. And also, if you go to this cargo.toml file, you will see that it's this cargo.toml file of the API. You will see that it depends on this srellipse repository, which there's also a GitLab link given for this. And if we go to this, you will see it take us to the GitLab page of this Rust libraries, and there you find even more helpful things like let me see. Yeah, you can basically take a look through that. I didn't do that beforehand. But you will find here in utils stuff like card templates, which contains all of the available cards in game. So, for example, if you want to know the ID of Fathom Lord, you can just look there. Or also all of the available maps in the game are also implemented there. So this is will basically give you all of the resources you need, and in this API you find all of the comments you need and so on. And this should be all that you need to write your own bot implementation. Okay, I hope this made things a little bit more clear to you. If you still have any questions, feel free to hop onto the Discord server and leave them there. I'm sure somebody will be able to help you. And until then, happy programming and see you all on the Forge. Bye.